Hello everyone. Today we are going to share a very sad story. Sorry for the long post. I tried to put as many details as I could remember and just to fully explain what my family has been going through recently. My wife, 4-year old, and I moved into our new constructed apartment in January of this year. Our 4-year old started saying he heard my wife tell him things like, "You're stupid," or "You're ugly," even though she wasn't saying anything. We thought maybe it was just his imagination, and if it continued, he may need to see a therapist. My wife keeps house extremely clean, vacuuming and mopping the whole house at least once a week. One day, we noticed muddy footprints coming in from our deck on the second floor, which has no stairs or anything connected to it. We cleaned them up and asked the property manager if maintenance had been out, which they had not. Fast forward until about a month ago, and my wife was putting clothes away in the closet and heard a creepy voice say, "You are dead," right behind her. She ran downstairs to where our son and I were sitting. She was scared to death and crying. I ran upstairs and made sure no one was hiding anywhere. When I did not find anyone, I checked the closet to make sure I did not see any sort of noise devices or anything. A few days later, we hung out with our next door neighbors in our driveway for a few hours while the kids played outside. When the when we came back inside and went up to the third floor where our bedrooms are, my wife immediately noticed that someone had been through her jewelry box because it was open and her hair were tied scattered all around. I thought maybe she forgot to close it or something, but that's not like her. That's just, she said she definitely straightened everything up before we went outside. She is very OCD with these things. We did not notice anything missing, but it still freaked us out that someone could have been in our home while we were out front. The next day, my wife mopped the kitchen area that leads to the stair to our third floor, and she noticed the mop pad were dirtier than it's been since we moved in. There was mud on the bottom of it. We never wear our shoes in the house, and we haven't had any guests over in months. So we knew someone had been inside beside us. We had a full view of the front door the entire time we were outside. So they could not have come through there. The only other entrance would have been through the back door on the second floor through the deck. We were freaked out but did not find anything missing, so we eventually calmed down. A couple of days later, we went for a ride and ran some errands for a little over an hour. When we got home, my wife noticed that one of her favorite necklaces was missing. She was very upset and went to look around the house for anything else gone. One of her pink baking dishes was in the top kitchen cabinet was gone, and we could not find the new decorative plant we just received in the mail earlier that day. She placed it on a small top table in the living room, but it was gone. And the plant she had there originally was placed back in its place. We looked all over the house and could not find any of her missing stuff. The next morning, after our son woke up, we looked in his bathroom and the missing plant was in his tub. We shower him in our bathroom, so his tub does not really get used. We looked there the previous night and nothing was there. We were completely baffled as to why someone would take her plant and put it in the tub. We looked around the house and noticed the curtains to the back deck were shuffled, and the back deck door had been opened because we saw dirt that fell from the door from being opened. We don't go out on our deck, so we knew it wasn't from us. Also, the deadbolt was secured back, so it looked like they either could pick locks or had a key. The only ones who have keys to our house are my wife and me. We asked the neighbor behind us who had a ring camera facing backside of our apartment if they saw anything, and it did not show anything on our deck. Also, our front door ring camera did not show anything weird. The next day, my wife heard some creepy voice in her ear say, "Hi," while we were all in my son's room. Our 4-year-old also said he heard it, but I could not hear it. A little while later, we decided to go out on a ride to try to relax for a bit. During our drive, we kept checking our ring camera to make sure we did not see anything strange. All of a sudden, all our ring video history was cleared. Only my wife and I access to the account, and we only have the access. And we were both together. I thought someone hacked the account or something. So we called Ring, and they said only people who are logged into your accounts can delete videos. We changed the password to the account and made sure the two-factor authentication was on. When we got back home, we found one of my wife's necklaces beside our bathroom air vent on the ground. It looked like someone was looking in her bathroom cabinet and accidentally dropped the necklace. She looked in the cabinet and noticed one of her hair product was also missing. We went and opened her jewelry box where the fallen necklace was supposed to be, and several of her watches and other pieces of jewelry were gone. Strangely enough, her expensive engagement ring and other jewelry were left untouched. Also, she was missing one shirt she had washed and put in the closet the day before, and a new brow gel she brought. We thought someone may be coming in while we are gone and taking things little by little to mess with us or to scare us. If they were just after valuables, they could have cleared all the expensive stuff out the first time they were in. We checked around the house, and inside one of the boxes on and our TV stand, a picture of my wife and son we had just placed in there a few days prior was ripped down the middle. Whoever was doing this seems to be targeting my wife specifically. As one of the, my stuff was none of the my stuff was missing. My thoughts were to immediately try to secure our house and try to catch over whoever was doing this to us. I ordered an inside Wi-Fi camera as well as two offline cameras to record different areas of the house while we were gone. I also changed all the door locks and deadbolts. My wife spoke to a friend of hers who is a police officer, and he agreed to watch over our house while we were gone from an unmarked car outside. We thought for sure this would put an end to everything. A couple of days later, we left for around an hour at night to get some food and take a drive. When we got home, we noticed the lamp and the plant in the front entryway has been reversed, and a pair of my wife's flip flops were gone. When we went to our bedroom, her engagement ring and some other pieces of jewelry were gone. This made us extremely upset. How could they be still getting in and taking our stuff? We checked the camera and saw nothing. Once again, all our ring footage was deleted again. And my wife and I were all together the whole time and looking at our phone when it disappeared. One of the offline cameras picked up several strange noises that sounded like power tools banging and a few people talking. We could hear at least one man, one woman, and a child. Our neighbors weren't home during this time, so we know it wasn't them. Whoever came in conveniently knew how to bypass all the cameras we had set up and recording, since we had a new locks and everything. I thought the only way they could have come in would have been through the attic door. I went up there and could not find anything suspicious. I put an alarm sensor on the attic door just to make sure. That night, my wife and son heard strange voices, but it only ever said the same two things: "You are dead," and "Hi," or just giggle. I thought it was possible someone put remote audio devices in the house somewhere and got a detector tool to find anything, but came up empty handed. I also got a new carbon monoxide detector to make sure we were not having a leak, but it showed 0 ppm throughout the house. The next night, my wife and I were in the bed, and I started to fall asleep. She woke me up and saying, "Stop tickling my feet." I told her I wasn't touching her feet and went back to sleep. This happened about 4 more times, and she was telling me that it wasn't funny. I told her to look my hands and feet, they were close enough to tickle her. We looked around the bed and did not see anything. An hour or so later, while we were both asleep, my wife woke up screaming, saying, "Ouch, why did you slap me?" I told her I was asleep and I did not do anything. In fact, I was facing the other direction and could not have slapped her. Again, we looked around the room and could not see anyone. We would have heard our door open or close if someone came in and ran off. As my wife walked back to bed and she stepped on something and picked it up. It was her missing engagement ring. We were completely baffled as to why it was there. We looked everywhere and she had even vacuumed the whole room earlier in the day. The officer she knew told us that they would have fingerprint for the evidence if the stolen stuff reached a certain value. So we planned to ask them to investigate the next day. I thought maybe they returned the ring so maybe we could not have them dust for prints. Maybe they have left evidence behind and did not want to get caught. I thought that perhaps they were able to listen to us or watch us talking while we were in the house. All of this extremely stressful for us, and I wanted to figure out who was messing with my family. They somehow circumvented all our security cameras and still got in. My wife thought there were only two possibilities. It was either me doing this to her for some sick reason, or it was a ghost or demon. I've never been a believer of such things and have been a skeptic whole time. I told her I absolutely wasn't doing any of this, but I still did not think it was an entity. I came up with a logical reason a person may be clever enough to do these things, but I could not explain what her and my sons were hearing. How how they got in or out of our room on the third floor so quickly without being noticed or picked up on the camera. Over the next few days, we did not really notice anything else missing. My wife and son would occasionally hear the voice saying the same things. Also, our hue lights would flicker on and off a lot and sometimes change color. I thought perhaps someone hacked into our hue and was connected to our Wi Fi. So I changed the account. This did not fix the problem with the lights. My wife cleaned up our son's room and the bathroom for the day and was working on some laundry. She walked back into this room and his decorative towels on both walls were in the floor and his shower curtain was open. None of us had been there since she fixes up the room. So we put everything back together and went to the bathroom across the hall. When we were about to go downstairs to eat, we checked his bathroom again, and his curtain was all the way open again, and there were large, slender handprints on his bedspread. None of us had been back in there since we fixed it. We did not know what was going on. I thought maybe someone was coming through the secret compartment in the bathroom, but could not find any way possible for that to happen. That night, as my wife and I were sleeping, she woke up scared to death and said someone was grabbing her foot. We did not see anything in the room and she went back to the sleep. I stayed awake to make sure nothing was going on, and several minutes later she woke up again and saying someone grabbed her arm and pulled it. This happened a few more times and it scared her to death. I did not know what to do to help her. The next day we were all on the second floor eating and we heard some bangs from above us. I went upstairs to check and did not see anything or anyone. An hour or so later, we all went upstairs together and looked in his bathroom. This time, a bunch of his bath supplies, Q-tips, and bowls all in his sink. It looked like someone grabbed a bunch of stuff from under his cabinet and threw it in the sink. We did not know what was going on. We were all together the whole time, so there is no way any of us put that stuff in the sink. That night, I decided to put the camera facing us to see if we could catch the moments my wife feels like grabbing on the camera, but nothing happened that night. When we reviewed the videos, it looked like the flashlight in the nightstand beside me was flashing on and off a bunch of times a couple of hours before we woke up. You could see the light in the video reflecting the walls. No one came in or out of our room all night, so this was really weird. When we look at the footage from wherever we leave the house, we can hear loud noises, banging, and occasional talking. Last night, we got back home from a ride The lampshade on our front table was turned halfway around. I had a picture from before we left that showed it was correct before we left. My wife would have immediately noticed if it was every ever turned the wrong way. When we looked around the house, she noticed the dress she wore when we got married was missing from the closet. Also, several pieces of her makeup set were gone, including the brow gel she just brought to replace the one missing from the other day. A couple of hours later, as we were getting ready for bed, all the lamps lights in the house went on off quickly and then stayed off. This happened as soon as I left the room and went downstairs to grab water. All of this is very, very unusual and upsetting me. I am not sure why they are targeting my wife's things and not messing with none of any of mine. Also, the only wife and our son have heard the voices. As I said earlier, I have been a skeptic and would not believe in things like this. But I am running out of ideas on how someone could be doing all this. Does anyone have any thoughts on how should we proceed? Also, as a bit of a backstory, my wife has been suffering from health problems for the several years. She has had severe hypoglycemia that the doctors could not figure out. It would get low as 29 and 31 and she passed out for several times. For the last couple of weeks, around the same time, all this stuff, she started amplifying and she hasn't had any sugar drops. She's able to eat food she has been avoiding, and her sugar seems stable for the first time in years. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm open to ideas. I love my family and I just want them to be safe and feel secure in our home.